keeping you connected in Northeast Wisconsin. You're watching NBC 26 Today.
Coming up, President Trump hosting a rally in Green Bay this Saturday. Why health leaders and Democrats are cautioning against it. And Wisconsin now declared a red zone. What that means as far as the number of coronavirus cases here. And a spike in cases in the United Nations when leaders have found the most cases where contracted. Good Thursday morning. Our meteorologist Gino Recchia joining us from his home studio. What's the weather looking like today?
Well, it's going to be a little cooler today, Emily, and we are going to be talking even for the chance of some frost later overnight. So not this morning, we're a little bit warm, but you can see the locations where pretty much everyone in the Fox Valley and southward seeing those frost advisories for tonight. Now, further to the north into the Northwoods, they already saw their freeze, so the growing season has ended. That's why they don't have any frost or freeze headlines. Temperatures right now at 44 degrees. We've got a wind coming in out of the west at about 9 miles per hour. 6:51 is when we'll see that sun rising this morning. We've got 42 in Antigo, 40 in Pembine. We've got mid-40s to upper 40s along the shoreline and mid-40s right now across the Fox Valley. Winds are coming in pretty light. They're not going to be as breezy as what we saw for yesterday, but still coming in out of the north and northwest at about 10 to 15 miles per hour or so. A couple light rain showers ongoing right now off towards Watoma, down towards Princeton, Green Lake, and Marquette counties. It does appear that we have a little bit of clearing skies up into the Northwoods, but once again, we'll start to see some of this development of more cloud cover and some rain showers as we head into the day today, as Skycast has been hinting about as we get into the afternoon. So temperature-wise, we get up to right around 54. We're talking cooler weather for the next couple of days, and I'll talk about that coming up.
All right, thanks, Gino. State health officials reported 27 coronavirus deaths yesterday. The previous peak was 22, set back in May. The total deaths now stand at more than 1,300 people in Wisconsin. The latest number of cases is more than 2,300. More than 80% of all cases statewide have already recovered. President Donald Trump is set to have an in-person campaign rally at the Green Bay airport this weekend. The 7-day average of new coronavirus cases is down compared to earlier this week, but it's up more than 4 times what it was this time last month. Our Ryan Curry has more on the event and what health officials want the public to know.
People want to hear what I have to say. I mean,
but are you
I've
not
done
worried
a great
about
job as a president, and I'll have 35,000 people show up.
President Trump during Tuesday night's debate defending his decision to hold large campaign rallies while COVID-19 continues to spread.
Are you not worried about the disease
a lot of people.
Sir?
Well, so far, we have had no problem whatsoever.
But the Brown County Health Department is expressing concern over this weekend's rally, especially recently as cases and hospitalizations of COVID-19 surge in Wisconsin.
We are always concerned when it comes to a large event, and we hope that the proper safety measures are taken.
The president's planned trip this coming Saturday will be his 3rd stop in Wisconsin in just the past 2 months. So to get an idea for what these rallies look like during the pandemic, you don't need to go back too far. All you need to do is take a look back at his recent Northeast trip to Oshkosh back in August.
Donald J. Trump.
During that campaign stop, several hundred people crowded close together in an open airport hangar. In a statement, the Trump campaign says, quote, "For the president's outdoor events in Wisconsin, like his other campaign events, everyone attending will receive a temperature check, be provided a mask they are encouraged to wear, and have access to plenty of hand sanitizer." Wisconsin Democrats are urging the president not to host such a large crowd in a state experiencing its worst COVID spike to date.
Making people choose between wanting to see their favorite candidate or the president in person and risking the health of others is a false choice.
The health department says anyone planning on attending the event should strongly consider following safety precautions.
We do make every attempt to reach out to the event organizer, talk about our recommendations to safely put on events such as ensuring social distancing, hand washing, procedures so that people who are sick stay home.
Ryan Curry, NBC 26.
Thank you, Ryan. One Midwestern state has a new warning for its residents, asking them not to travel here. Ohio's governor issued a travel advisory asking residents to not visit 7 states with high positivity rates, including Wisconsin. Wisconsin has been declared a red zone for coronavirus cases. According to the CDC, Wisconsin is number 3 in the country for new cases, behind only California and Texas. Health officials originally said college students in places like Dane County accounted for a large number of cases. The task force report suggests that is not the case anymore.
We need to come together, and we all need to row in the same direction. And we need to be really compulsive about masking. We need to take care of ourselves, and we need to take care of each other.
Experts say hospitals are enforcing contingency plans and may defer needed care that is not COVID-19. More than 40% of all coronavirus cases among Native Americans in Wisconsin were reported just this month. That's according to the state, with numbers dating back to April. For total numbers in Wisconsin, 38% of the total cases have come this month. Our Eric Kress spoke with a public health officer from the Oneida Nation.
Wisconsinites just endured the worst month on record as far as positive cases of COVID-19.
We've seen increases in all age groups, and we track data on a daily basis.
Oneida Nation Public Health Officer Michelle Myers says the last few weeks, more and more people from the Oneida Nation have contracted the virus, many having a notion where they likely got it.
When we talk with these folks, they know of an activity, a high-risk activity that they've participated in where they could have gotten it.
Currently, the Department of Health Services reports that 606 Native Americans in Wisconsin contracted COVID-19 in September alone.
The numbers continue to increase as they do in all jurisdictions.
But let's take a look at the trend. Back in April, when DHS started keeping track of Native American COVID-19 cases, the numbers rarely grew more than a dozen from one day to the next, and that trend lasted through August.
We definitely saw an increase during the month of September.
But by the time September hit, COVID cases in Native American populations were increasing by 20, 30, and 40 plus cases nearly every day. And today we know that over 40% of all COVID-19 cases documented so far amongst Native Americans in Wisconsin were contracted in September.
We can do this, but we all need to do this together. Everybody's actions impacts the community, and it has to happen in every community.
In the Oneida Nation, Eric Kress, NBC 26.
Thank you, Eric. DHS reports that 1,381 Native Americans have contracted COVID-19 in Wisconsin. That's an increase of 606 cases in the last month. Marcus Theaters will temporarily close 17 of the 72 theaters it recently reopened, including one in our area. According to the website, Marcus Green Bay East Cinema is temporarily closed. The Milwaukee-based theater chain says business is down because Hollywood studios delayed most of the year's major releases due to the pandemic. All right, still to come, it is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Why doctors say you shouldn't put off your screenings despite the coronavirus pandemic.
And we are in a new month, and with it, not only are the leaves falling, but also the temperatures. Our average high goes from 63 to 50 degrees by Halloween. But tomorrow morning, some of us might be seeing temperatures even cooler to start off. We're going to be talking about that coming up.
Today kicks off Breast Cancer Awareness Month. That's why in this morning's Rebound, why one doctor says patients shouldn't skip screenings over COVID-19 concerns. Our Abigail Hankey explains.
Putting off getting your breast cancer screening for a few months generally will not affect you too much, according to Dr. Nina Desai. She's a radiation oncologist with Theta Care.
Where I get concerned is patients who, start to think that, oh, maybe I'll just skip it this year and do it next year.
Because of the pandemic, thousands of people have been putting off getting their screenings done, worried about getting COVID at the doctor's office.
We're doing everything possible to make sure that when you come in here that you feel safe.
Dr. Desai saying the benefits of getting your screenings done now greatly outweighs the risks of getting exposed to the virus.
I mean, honestly, I am worried because like I said, we know that when a patient has a cancer detected early, not only does that just impact their overall prognosis, but it also potentially allows for less aggressive treatment, more options potentially for how we treat and manage this.
Adding the impact of this pandemic with delayed care not only may be felt this year, but data showing
we could see an excess of over 10,000 excess deaths from breast and colon cancer in the next decade due to COVID. That's huge.
Dr. Desai says if you are worried or have any questions, to ask your physician and talk about any concerns you may have about the virus or your screening. She also suggests for anyone to get their breast cancer screening started by the age of 40, as this can really help reduce breast cancer mortality. Abigail Hankey, NBC 26.
All right, thanks, Abigail. Still ahead, half the battle. The next hurdle health experts must overcome before a vaccine can be distributed.
And we are seeing the chance of maybe some snow in the forecast. Did you know that we get about 0.2 of an inch on average of snowfall during the month of October? Some areas up towards the UP might see their first snowflakes of the season. We're going to be talking about that, and also the concern for some frost and freeze conditions later tonight, coming up after the break.
You're watching NBC 26 Today with Brooke Haves and meteorologist Michael Fish.
Good morning, I'm Emily Beyer in for Brooke Haves. Approving a COVID-19 vaccine is only half the battle for health experts. Next, they must determine how to distribute it and who gets it. Sarah Dolph has the story.
The race is on to develop a coronavirus vaccine and distribute it ethically and efficiently. In Massachusetts, the bulk of Acme Dry Ice's business is from vaccine manufacturers.
We've gotten calls as far as California, Seattle, Chicago, Texas.
Several of the leading vaccine contenders must be stored at sub-zero temperatures. UPS building freezer farms. Hospitals and states asked to plan now.
This is definitely probably the most daunting task that we've had to undertake.
The first doses will likely be limited, possibly covering as little as 5% of the country's population.
The first round or 2 or 3 of vaccination won't be sufficient to achieve that level of population immunity.
A CDC advisory group is recommending those initial doses go to healthcare workers and high-risk groups, expanding to others as more doses are manufactured and possibly more vaccines approved.
There are different platforms to deliver the same technology, essentially. So I fully agree that if a vaccine works, we'll likely have multiple vaccines.
All Americans likely will have access to these new weapons in the fight against COVID within a year to a year and a half of their approval. Each phase in the process complex and critical. Sarah Dolph, NBC News.
Thank you, Sarah. Another challenge for health experts: convincing approved vaccines are safe and effective. A recent Pew study finding about 50% of Americans say they'd probably or definitely get a COVID vaccine. That's down about 20 points from May. Caregivers already deal with a lot of stress, and it's rising. The Caregiver Action Network has been seeing more calls coming into its free help desk recently. It says 1 out of every 3 has something to do with a challenge raised by the pandemic.
I actually will hear them breathing, like a deep breath of like sigh of relief almost, and that they're actually feeling better at the end of the call, having just been able to express some of their thoughts, some of their worries.
She says people calling in are expressing a lot of pandemic fatigue. They're overwhelmed because they don't have the same resources or outlets they had previously. The pandemic may also be keeping loved ones at home longer.
Aging in place has gone from being a desire, a wish, to almost a mandate or something that really has to happen, because families are just afraid to have their elderly loved ones put in a nursing home.
He says we need more training and financial support for the caregivers in this situation. The expansion of telehealth has been helpful. One challenge is when caregivers can't be present when that virtual visit is happening, like they would with an in-person doctor's visit. Experts at the help desk are making sure caregivers focus on their self-care now more than ever. They say you can help any caregivers you know by checking in on them and offering whatever support they need. Turning to weather now, meteorologist Gino Recchia at his home studio. You mentioned snow earlier.
Yeah, so there could be some lake effect snow showers, Emily, that move in from the south shores of Lake Superior. But I don't think we're going to be seeing here in Green Bay and further south. But like we're close to the UP, might see some first flakes of the season. as we transition into October. And talking about the cold weather, we do have that frost advisory in effect for tonight. So not this morning, but it's overnight tonight into as we get to Friday morning. That's where we could be seeing some values down into the lower 30s. So bring those potted plants inside or cover your gardens outside if you want to see them striving tomorrow, because we also, it looks like another round of frost Friday night into Saturday morning. And look how those temperatures really do drop as we head into the overnight. As we get to tomorrow morning, we're seeing values in the low 30s. Now, farther to the northwards where you don't see any frost advisories, like if you're up towards Pembine, well, your growing season technically ended because you already saw a round of frost and freeze earlier in September. 44 degrees right now, wind out of the west at 9 miles per hour, sunrise at 6:51. We're holding on to temperatures in the lower 40s up to the north, mid and upper 40s farther southward, including the lakeshore. Winds are pretty light right now out of the west and northwest. They have calmed pretty significantly compared to yesterday afternoon and evening, where we did see some gusts upwards of 30 to 35 miles per hour. Some of us dealing with rain showers as well this morning. Off just south of Stevens Point, west of Wapaka, down towards Watoma, Princeton, Green Lake areas. Heading even a little bit of a few sprinkles near Fond du Lac. It's going to be the same case today. We've got another cold front moving through the area, and that's sparking off some of these showers and that cold air surging southward. So keep the umbrella handy, because we will be seeing some of these pop-up showers as we continue on into the afternoon and evening. But then as we head into the overnight, it looks like the rain showers come to an end and we'll break into some partly cloudy to mostly clear skies. However, a little bit of some lake effect rain showers and even some lake effect snow showers. And I wanted to talk about that. Let's head up just a little bit farther to the north. This is overnight into Friday morning. You see some of those blue colors. Yeah, that is some of that lake effect snow and rain shower activity that could be happening. Pretty interesting to see right there. Temperature-wise, we'll be climbing up to right around 54. Then we'll cool down to 33 overnight tonight. Northwest wind at 5 to 10 miles per hour. Tomorrow's high temperature climbs up to 48 with an isolated rain shower. That's mostly just an effect of the lake effect. Then we get up to 50 on our Saturday, starting off with another chance of some freeze and frost. 52 on our Sunday. And then as we travel off towards Monday, near 60 degrees. And then afterwards, Emily, we'll start to warm things up into the mid-60s. It looks like a change of the pattern with some warmer air moving into our area. So not too bad if you're not ready for the cold weather just yet.
All right, sounds good. Thanks, Gino. Still to come, On the Move, how the pandemic has pushed many people to pack up, leave home, and move in somewhere new. If you get political text messages, you might feel like they've been worse lately. Well, new numbers show you're right. RoboKiller, the company that makes robocall blocking software, has counted 1.1 billion political texts for September. That's in addition to 68 million election-related robocalls. It's significantly more than in August. Republicans have sent almost double the number of text messages as Democrats. If you're not sure why you get these messages, odds are you gave out your phone number when you registered to vote or interacted with a political group. The pandemic has pushed people to pack up and move this year, whether it's adult kids moving back home with their folks, job opportunities, or families leaving the city for more space. Dan Scheneman has the story.
We're starting our trek to Texas.
The Reislings sold their home in Southern California and are now planning roots in Texas.
So we are officially out of California.
Tara was furloughed in May. Her husband, Brandon, still working, suggested they move.
He told me that if we moved to Texas, we could afford to live on his salary.
Reisling didn't want to leave her job and got permission to work remotely once the furlough was over.
Now we can move to Texas, and I can afford to wait for my job to come back.
The pandemic is giving people the push to move, whether it's for financial reasons or the realization they need more space.
In May, we started to see a big shift, people moving out of major cities.
According to recent polls, 1/3 of Americans are considering moving to less densely populated areas. And the number of young adults living with one or more of their parents grew to 26.6 million, an increase of 2.6 million from February. Chuck Kuhn, President and Chief Executive Officer of JK Moving, says business is booming.
We've seen a 44% increase in move volume from May through September.
Kuhn recommends shopping around for a mover and asking prospective companies about their COVID-19 policy.
When they go out to the job sites, they're wearing masks, they're wearing gloves. Our trucks are being sterilized daily.
A safe way to move in the midst of a new reality. Dan Scheneman, NBC News.
Thanks, Dan. The CDC says cruise ships overseas are still experiencing outbreaks of coronavirus, so the agency is extending its no-sail order here in the U.S. It was set to expire yesterday, but will go through the end of this month now. It coincides with a voluntary sail suspension announced by the Cruise Lines International Association, which most U.S. ships are under. When the pandemic hit, many cruise ships became quarantine bubbles with several outbreaks. Patio heaters, fire pits, and hot tubs are literally hot commodities headed into winter. Americans are facing the prospect of a winter in which COVID-19 is still a threat. Social distancing measures remain the norm, and many indoor gatherings are restricted or banned. Consumers continue to spend big on home improvement projects right now. That includes ways to make outdoor spaces usable during winter months. It's also driving people to stock up on warm coats and outdoor sports gear like snowshoes and snow tubes. Sounds like, Gino, we may not be too far off from that. I mean, snow in October, that happens in Wisconsin, that's for sure.
I mean, you grew up here, so do you remember any like trick-or-treats like in Halloween where you dealt with snow?
Yep, I remember having to wear a jacket over my costume often, so it just sometimes happens.
Yeah, it does. It gets cold, so that's why you gotta maybe get like a suit or a costume that's like a couple sizes larger, so then you can put the coat underneath. But yeah, it is going to get a little chilly. Even talking about chilly weather, tomorrow morning we could be talking about values down into the lower 30s. But as for right now, we're a little warmer right now, holding on into lower to mid 40s. A little bit of rain showers right now ongoing over parts of Watoma, down towards Princeton, Green Lake, where we do have a cold front that's moving through the area. Temperature-wise, we'll be starting to climb up only into the mid-50s today. Yesterday, we saw high temperatures into the lower 60s for many of us, but it looks like some warmer weather on the way, and we'll talk about it in the next half hour.
Keeping you connected in Northeast Wisconsin, you're watching NBC 26 Today.
Coming up, the push for virtual learning, why more teachers are urging the state to end in-person classes. And why some landlords are pushing to end the CDC's eviction moratorium, what they say tenants need instead. Plus, remote work reimbursement, why companies may want to pay employees back for the expenses of working from home. Good Thursday morning. Speaking of working from home, Gino Recchia joining us from his home studio. Tell us a little bit about what's going on here today. I mean, it's cold now. I think it will be until next year.
Really? You don't think we'll see another 70, Emily?
I don't think so. I don't have faith.
Oh.
We'll see.
Okay. Well, I'll try to prove you wrong, because next week, at least sometime in the middle of next week, it does appear we might start to warm things up just a little bit. But